Imagine this. A ship leaves port in Malaysia. Inside its containers, semiconductors, lithium, medical supplies, and rare earth metals. The lifeblood of a modern economy. Halfway to its destination, the ship receives a message. Do not dock. See, a new regulation, a sanctions list, a gray zone dispute, and just like that, the world's trade map redraws itself in real time. Supply chains aren't background noise anymore. They are the battlefield. And control, not production, is the prize. Power isn't measured in missiles or markets anymore. It's measured in choke points. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome to Midweek Sitrep, your bi-weekly briefing on national security and the forces that shape it. My name is Jerry Fowler, and I'm your host. Every other week, I give you the context you need to see what's really going on so you can stay mission-focused. Today, we're talking about the part of the global system most people never see. The invisible web that decides what ships sail, what factories run, and what shelves stay empty. It's called the supply chain, but in practice, it's more of a power chain, and every country is fighting to control it. Let's go. In the 20th century, power came from what you produced. In the 21st, it comes from what you can control. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the US-China rivalry all provided a simple truth. The world runs on logistics. If data is the nervous system of globalization, supply chains are its bloodstream. And every country, from the US to China to India, is now fighting to decide where that blood flows. This is the control economy. A world where trade routes, manufacturing hubs, and shipping lanes are no longer neutral. They're instruments of power projection. China understood this early. The Belt and Road Initiative isn't just about loans or diplomacy. It's about logistics dominance. Railways through Central Asia, ports in Africa, shipping hubs from Sri Lanka to Greece. Each node a lever of influence. The US, in turn, is reasserting its own control network, rebuilding domestic manufacturing, reshoring supply chains, and investing in allies through CHIPS, IRA, and the AUKUS-linked industrial cooperation. Both sides are racing not to own everything, but to control enough of everything to bend global flow to their advantage. In geopolitics, whoever owns the choke points owns the future. So let's talk about the choke points. The physical and regulatory pinch points that make global trade fragile and strategic. Now there's 7 maritime choke points that matter more than almost anything else. The Strait of Hormuz, oil artery of the world. The Bab el-Mandeb, the gateway between Asia and Europe. The Suez Canal, a shortcut for global trade, one ship's accident away from global paralysis. The Malacca Strait, between Malaysia and Indonesia, critical for Chinese energy imports. The Panama Canal, America's shortcut between oceans, now strained by drought. The Bosporus, Russia's window to the Mediterranean. And the Taiwan Strait, a choke point for chips and freedom alike. Control over these isn't theoretical. It's economic warfare by geography. But today's choke points aren't just physical. They're digital and regulatory. So think export licenses, customs data, or the compliance systems that decide whether a shipment gets cleared or gets flagged. Every shipment passes through a web of systems: SWIFT codes, sanctions databases, automated export screening, and third-party logistics software. Those systems are controlled by someone, and whoever controls the systems controls the flow. The world's most powerful weapons don't explode. They delay, they deny, and they disrupt. Here's the key question. Why does control over supply chains matter? The answer is it converts dependence into leverage. Let's talk some examples. Russia weaponized energy pipelines. China weaponized rare earth exports. And the US weaponized the dollar and semiconductor supply chains. Each one revealed the same truth. The logistics network itself is now a weapon. The phrase de-risking, it sounds safe, but it's really the modern version of containment. Countries aren't just diversifying suppliers, they're building alliances around control nodes. And the battlefield isn't just ports or production, it's trust. When companies ask, can we ship this? What they're really asking is, can we trust the system we depend on? In a control economy, the currency of power is reliability. The world's supply chains aren't run by governments. They're run by corporations. And that's what makes them so powerful. Maersk moves more cargo than most countries' navies could protect. Amazon runs a logistics network bigger than the postal systems of entire continents. TSMC manufactures the chips that keep the world's militaries, banks, and hospitals running. These aren't just businesses, they're infrastructure. When they act, the world adjusts. A paused shipment, a new trade route, a policy change in a boardroom, each one reshapes global power in real time. That's the uncomfortable truth. States make the rules, but companies move the world. And now, those two are converging. Governments are pulling the private sector deeper into strategy, subsidizing, restricting, or outright directing production and logistics. Friendshoring isn't about trust so much, it's about control by proximity. When your allies make the goods and your rivals don't, your risk becomes predictable, and your leverage grows. For compliance and corporate leaders, this changes everything. You're not optimizing supply chains anymore. You're navigating the front lines of economic statecraft. Every routing decision, vendor selection, and export clearance is a national security act in miniature. In a world built on trade, the private sector isn't behind the front line. It is the front line. Let's ground this in reality. When the US restricted advanced semiconductors to China, Beijing didn't retaliate with tariffs or tanks. It tightened exports of gallium and germanium, critical minerals for chips and defense systems. That's control-based warfare. One country cuts off design and software access. The other cuts off raw materials. The result? A logistics standoff where everyone feels the pain and no one can exit easily. Add to that global shipping crunch caused by Red Sea attacks and Suez disruptions, and you start to see a world where logistics isn't just reactive, it's strategic terrain. Every delay, every customs hold, every regulatory shift, they're all pressure points. Let's talk about compliance. This is where geopolitics stop being abstract and start showing up on balance sheets. When trade lanes shift, sanctions expand, or a single port shuts down, the cost isn't theoretical. It's measured in missed shipments, idle factories, and lost trust. For companies, mapping dependencies is no longer a PowerPoint exercise. It's a survival plan. For compliance teams, screening vendors and routes now carries the same weight as screening for fraud or money laundering. Transparency and traceability aren't ESG buzzwords, they're armor. Because the next disruption won't come with a warning. It'll come from a customs hold, a cyber incident, or a regulation that changes overnight. Ask yourself, do you know who owns your logistics provider? Where your raw materials are actually mined or refined? What happens if the port your goods depend on becomes a political flashpoint tomorrow? In the control economy, resilience is the new efficiency, and compliance is its architecture. You're not just keeping the system running, you're deciding whether it survives. Compliance isn't a department anymore. It's command and control for the modern economy. Prepare. So where does all of this lead? Maybe not to collapse, but to recalibration. Every country is reevaluating what it must control to survive, whether that's energy, chips, data, shipping, or food. They call it resilience or sovereignty, but beneath those words is a simple impulse. Don't get caught dependent again. We're seeing the rise of predictive logistics, AI-driven supply mapping, and alliances built on mutual control. Chips for minerals, ports for security. The intent isn't isolation, it's insurance. The danger? When everyone starts building their own safety nets, the global web begins to fray. Connectivity turns selective. Trade becomes conditional. And the world's arteries of movement, they start reflecting politics more than price. So this isn't a forecast, it's a question. How much control is enough before resilience becomes rivalry? The next Cold War might not be fought for land, but it could be fought for lanes and the right to keep them open. Every shipment, every contract, every regulation we've talked about comes down to one idea: control. Not control in theory, but control in practice. Who can move? Who must wait? And who decides the rules of movement itself? That's what the control economy really measures. Not productivity, not growth, but the ability to make the world stop or go with a single decision. For businesses, that means supply chains aren't background infrastructure anymore. They're exposure maps. For nations, it means security depends less on what you build and more on what you can still access when the world locks it up. Control isn't about domination. It's about dependency and the quiet power that comes from managing it better than anyone else. And that's today's Sitrep. Make sure you keep up with Midweek Sitrep on Substack and YouTube for more on this and other topics. You'll find short clips, interviews, and bonus content. And if you want to support the show, check out our merch on everythingisnationalsecurity.com. Every shirt and hat helps keep us independent and growing. I'm Jerry Fowler, and remember, everything is national security. See you next time. Midweek Sitrep with Jerry Fowler is an independent production of OpScent Media Group, LLC. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, or professional advice. Listeners should consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions based upon the content discussed. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host, Jerry Fowler, and any guest, and do not reflect the official policy, position, or endorsement of any current or former employer, client, government agency, military organization, educational institution, or any other entity for which the host, Jerry Fowler, may be affiliated. Mention of a company, product, or service does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation. Any references are provided for informational purposes only. This podcast does not disclose any classified, proprietary, or confidential information. All discussions are based upon publicly available information and personal expertise.
Everything's national security. OpSent Media Group, LLC.